Coming up next on Another View, there are more than 1 million people in this country infected with HIV, and nearly half of them are African American. Why is it, with so much information out there that the disease and how it's spread, that the numbers continue to rise in the Black community? We'll explore what some call an epidemic with Renata Simone, who has produced a 2-hour Frontline documentary on PBS that uncovers why HIV is so much worse in the Black community. Marvelyn, a young woman living with HIV, and Rosalin Johnson, STD Program Supervisor for the Virginia Department of Health. All this coming up right after the news from NPR.
Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Godley, filling in for Barbara Hamlee. Although Barbara's not here today, we both agree that we could not begin today's broadcast without saying something about the passing of State Senator Yvonne Miller. Senator Miller was a friend of Barbara's and mine and a supporter of Another View. I can't remember a time when we called on her to be a guest that she did not try to make that happen. Her strong will to make Hampton Roads a better place for those of us who call this region home will be truly missed. To her family, our heartfelt sympathy and our prayers are with you. Attempting to switch gears now to today's topic, AIDS and the African American community. The numbers are alarming. Every 10 minutes, someone in this country contracts the AIDS virus. Half of them are African American. What is going on in the Black community? According to Phil Wilson, head of the Black AIDS Institute, if Black America were a country, it would have the 16th highest infection rate in the world. Here to explore this issue with me is the creator of a new Frontline documentary, ENDGAME, AIDS in Black America, which premieres next Tuesday, July 10th at 9 p.m. on WHRV-TV, Renata Simone. Renata, thank you for joining us.
Lisa, thank you for having me on the program and your interest in the program. I'm very, 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 very happy to be here.
I can't wait to delve into this. Also today joining us is Marvelyn, a young woman living with HIV. Marvelyn, good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. And Rosalin Johnson.
Hi, Marvelyn.
Hey, Renata.
They know each other, everybody. And Rosalin Johnson is with me here in the studio. She's the STD Program Supervisor for the Virginia Department of Health. Rosalin, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you are here. Now, before we get into the conversation, I'd like you to hear the trailer for next Tuesday's documentary, ENDGAME, AIDS in Black America.
Today in America, 152 people will become infected with HIV. Half of them will be Black.
First 5 patients were white. The next 2 were Black. But in our reports, we said nothing whatsoever about race. It really is an omission on our part.
We thought about AIDS as afflicting only white people and then only white gay people. There were no Black gay people.
You don't tell other folks how poor you are. Or you don't tell other folks that you can't pay their rent. And you certainly don't tell other folks that someone in the family has AIDS.
Ignorance makes you more susceptible to the virus. I'm from the South. People don't talk about sex, let alone talk about HIV.
Being a bornie, being born with HIV is a lot. I was the last one born in my family, and I was the only one born with HIV.
Magic in the front court, dribble drive underneath.
Magic Johnson goes public, and it was absolutely extraordinary.
It wasn't just that he was a basketball legend. He was John Black Man next door.
But remember, no one wanted to be on a basketball court with Magic Johnson.
I'm not cured. I've been taking my meds. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm living with this virus in my blood system and in my body.
The sad part is we have people that die alone as a result of somebody being afraid to touch them.
AIDS is God's curse to a homosexual life. I think it stinks in the nostrils of God.
He doesn't get that God loves all his children.
How could you love me and keep such a secret from me? This is the worst kind of betrayal. This is not love.
We've been at this for 30 years, and we need to be talking about ENDGAME.
Ending the epidemic is entirely within our power.
How many of your sons, your daughters, your sisters have to die before this is about us?
ENDGAME, AIDS in Black America. Watch online or on air beginning July 10th.
Renata, I am going to start with you because I'm sure our listeners want to know, and I'm sure you have discovered, what is going on in Black America? What's going on in the Black community?
You know, there are three big problems, and they're all S words: stigma, secrecy, and silence. And all of those things wouldn't be so bad if at the very beginning of the epidemic, for the first 10 years, there was just no attention in the general public to the fact that this was affecting Black Americans. And I start the film, and the trailer you just played has a confession from the researcher who announced the first cases. And this is Michael Gottlieb in California, and he announced that 5 gay men had contracted this new mysterious disease. And that they were all white. Well, actually, the case number 6, number 7, and number 8 were Black Americans. And nobody said that. So the alarm never went out. And even when I interviewed Dr. Gottlieb for this film, he says in the film, we thought some are white, some are Black, no big deal. But it was a big deal because there was no alarm. And so the virus was able to spread in the Black community, and so sort of under the radar. And once you have the virus in the community, then the behaviors that normally and without the presence of the virus are perfectly fine, having unprotected sex. But if the virus is there, it's going to spread. And it's the same with IV drugs. So, not to make such a long answer, but, stigma and silence and secrecy certainly are important, and they're the main themes of the film, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it, but none of that would matter if there had been an early response, an early awareness.
Okay. All righty. Marvelyn, you have been living with HIV for 9 years. Would you please share your story?
Yes, I will. I contracted HIV from a former boyfriend who I loved and who I trusted, who told me all the things I wanted to hear, but never told me he was HIV positive. I never went in to voluntarily get an HIV test because I didn't think it could happen to me. So I was sick and on my deathbed with pneumonia not related to HIV when I was tested for the virus, and I discovered that I was positive at 19 years old, not even really truly understanding HIV and knowing what it meant.
Okay. What has life been like for you since you found out you were HIV positive?
Life is completely different. I mean, in a good way, because I'm more self-aware. HIV taught me to love myself. It taught me self-responsibility and also self-acceptance. It's become a manageable disease, but it is still a very hard one to live with. Every day I have to take 7 horse pills, a minimum, because, that's for my HIV diagnosis. Oh, let me get a cold or experience other things, and, the multiplication, the medication multiplies. And so that is still, very hard for me to accept taking the medication because it's become harder over the years. I thought it was something I would get used to and it would become easier. But in fact, I don't like taking it, but I have, to take it. And another hard thing living with it is the stigma that's out there with HIV because it's still heavy stigma out there.
Still, this day and time, very heavy, huh?
Yeah. I mean, of course, I don't know, what people, well, I know what the people went through, but not how they felt being HIV positive, years ago. I just know that I'm still facing stigma, and there's people still not saying anything because they're scared of the stigma.
Why do you think the stigma still exists?
Because people are not educated about HIV. Because if you look at this disease, if this is something that could happen to me, this is something that could happen to one of my family members, then, and you become educated about it, it kind of breaks that wall down.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Renata, this question is for you. As I know, as a producer myself, when I'm doing research on a project, there's always this kind of aha moment, and I know when I reach that point that this is what it's going to be centered on, and this is very important, and this has to be a part of it. What was one or two of your aha moments when you were putting this piece together?
Just before I forget, Marvelyn is in the film, and she is just so magnificent at communicating her story. You got a sense of it just now, and there's more there. My aha moment was really, I have to say, in 2006, I made a documentary about HIV all around the world, and we went to Selma, Alabama as part of that. Mm-hmm. In that film about the global AIDS, I could not cover in depth what was happening in the U.S., but when I saw what was happening in Selma, I knew I had to come back. And there you find the secrecy, the silence, the stigma. And, Mel Prince is down there at a small clinic, and she describes in her interview how people throw out refrigerators, they throw out appliances that were used by somebody with HIV. They, wash down everything with bleach, and HIV is not communicated by touching or drinking out of the same glass or any of this kind of thing. It's a very hard disease to get. You have to exchange bodily fluids, and so I just knew I had to go back and tell that story so that we could try to, as Marvelyn says, dispel the stigma with real information.
So that stigma exists because people are afraid of getting infected because they don't know how HIV is transmitted.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, and also people don't want to be associated with it. Like, I experienced stigma from people not even wanting to be my Facebook friends because they're scared somebody might think they're positive.
Wow.
Oh, Marvelyn.
Oh my Lord. Goodness.
This stuff still is just so upsetting. Isn't it ridiculous?
Wow. Oh, my goodness. Well, what is, and I want to ask both of you this, and then I'm going to ask Rosalin to jump in on this too. What, in your opinions, is the best way? Because I understand that young people, particularly in the African-American community, they're the ones that seem to keep popping up as positive. Their numbers are very high. What's the best way to get the word out to young people? What should we be telling them?
You take that one.
I think just being honest and real with them. There shouldn't be any sugarcoating when you're talking to someone young because they already think they know everything. We were all there before. I thought I knew everything. And I really wish someone would have just kept it real with me. And I didn't have that.
Okay.
That's terrific. The other thing is just to note for people listening that the fastest growing group of people with HIV is young people between 18 and 24. Right. Like Marvelyn says, this is when you think you know everything. You think you're immortal, and just discovering sex or getting more into it. It's a very dangerous time. but I think she's right about being straight.
Let me just pause for a minute and to remind our callers that we're talking about AIDS in the African American community. If you'd like to join this conversation, you can give us a call at 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Rosalin, thank you for being here. Tell me a little bit about what's going on.
Well, just like what Marvelyn was saying, the biggest thing is we need to get the word out. And it's very difficult to get the word out to teenagers because teenagers are more like you're saying right now, Facebook, Twitter. Some things that we have to look at, not just as a health department, but even for other medical providers in the areas that we have to start using apps on phones. Right now, they have an app out that's called About HIV. It shows videos. It talks about the HIV issue that's in our country right now. And it's readily accessible. So anybody can put that app on their phone, find a testing site, find out any information. Part of the problem is that a lot of times people have kind of gotten their focus on it is a gay white American disease, and they haven't seen any bulletin boards. They haven't seen anything that has reminded them other than earlier this month, National HIV Testing Day. That's the only time people really talk about HIV in the Black community. But we've got to continue to push it every single day. We have to have bulletin boards. We have to have different media ways in which young people can access this information so they can understand that this is still a continual problem in the Black community.
We were speaking a little earlier, and I was telling you that my godsister had gone into the health department in Portsmouth because she was being tested for TB because she was a registered nurse. And she was saying it was full of young people, at least 20 of them, all being tested for STDs.
A lot of time, patients are coming into health departments in any local health department and getting tested. But just because they're in the health department getting tested doesn't mean they're being tested for HIV. Mm-hmm. Because we are in an opt-out state. So if you come into the health department and you say to us, I don't want to be tested, we can't test you. So a lot of times, even though you see a lot of young people maybe possibly being in the health department, doesn't necessarily mean that they're taking the HIV test. They could just be testing for other STDs. So that doesn't mean they're actually getting tested for HIV. But I can tell you at the Norfolk Department of Public Health, we have a 20-minute rapid HIV test. So if you want to find out your test result, you can come in and within 20 minutes, we can tell you whether you're HIV negative or HIV positive.
Okay. All righty. Let's take a call. Uni, I believe that's how it's pronounced, calling us from Norfolk. Uni?
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. You know what? My background is in nursing. I'm not working in nursing anymore, but about 2 or 3 months ago, I was in Hampton in a doctor's office, and I had 3 African-American ministers. One was a bishop, one was something else, from different churches. And I thought, I'm never going to have this opportunity again. And I said, why? I think that more reaching out from the ministers, you guys should talk from the pulpit, because I know the ministers are very powerful in the community. And 2 of them absolutely flatly told me that what I needed to do was reach out to the homeless because that did not happen in their churches. And I thought, but it does. It's the highest incidence in these young ladies are getting infected. And I was completely shut down. I was just there, and I thought, wow, this may be a problem. This is, I think in the African-American community, the ministers have a responsibility to talk all the time. If, HIV happens, protective status. I mean, come on. That's just my opinion, of course. But, it seemed to me that that's also part of the problem. And I'll take your comments off the air.
Okay, Uni, thank you so much for your call. Renata, Marvelyn, you want to jump in? Rosalin?
Uni, I think it's a good comment that you make. I can tell you right now that in the local area, we have partnered with churches who have allowed us to come in and do testing. Gethsemane Baptist Church, Calvary Revival Baptist Church, they actually didn't make it an HIV event. What they did was, at Calvary Revival Church, what they did is a health fair, and they allowed different organizations to come in, provide testing, cholesterol, blood pressure, and HIV was part of that health fair. So there are churches out here in the local area who are supporting getting everybody tested for HIV and actually are doing it free of charge.
Okay, Renata, I remember in the documentary there was some controversy going back and forth between 2 pastors, I believe.
Now, Pastor Jordan down in Birmingham had a billboard outside of his church that says, AIDS is God's curse on homosexuals, and he took a lot of flack for that. I mean, that's sort of the worst of it. And there's some very, and this was 2004, but UNI is bringing it right up to the present. That's very disturbing. There are national and international people like Dr. Helene Gale, who said to me that she felt the most important driver of HIV in Black America was this attitude in the church, among the clergy. But on the other hand, things are changing. As Rosalin mentions, it's so much different now than it was in the 80s. And in my film, after Pastor Jordan says what he thinks, I interviewed a minister on the other side of Birmingham, Chris Hamlin, and he says, I draw on Jesus' words and what Jesus says, that we help people and take care of them, help them protect themselves. And so that attitude is growing, and you're right. It will take the involvement of the church.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Kurt on line 2 from Newport News. Kurt?
Barbara, listen, my opinion may be different, but I see AIDS as an international thing within the Black communities and Black nations. The European nations are not experiencing AIDS. I feel it's a controlled virus, and between incarceration of young minorities in this country and killings in the communities, AIDS is just another way of getting rid of a social and political problem. And we need to become aware of it and start doing something within our communities, watching our foodstuffs, watching our activities, and taking time to enlighten our children as to the pitfalls of bad social habits. And we just have to become aware. In the beginning, during Reagan's period, it was homosexuals, European homosexuals. Then we got the theory on the rhesus monkey. And now all of a sudden we go to Africa. They are heavy carriers of AIDS. We come into the Black community in this country, heavy recipients or carriers of AIDS. And it is rumored, I'm not saying it's a fact, but China will not take any foodstuffs, meat or otherwise, from this country because they feel they may be the next target. And that's my comment.
Okay, all righty. Thank you, Kurt. When you were talking about the large numbers, Washington, D.C., predominantly Black, has one of the most ferocious AIDS epidemics anywhere in the country, almost in the world. The adult population is thought to be infected. Renata, you addressed this in the documentary.
Yes, I don't agree that this is a targeted campaign of any kind of eradication or genocide. It just isn't. It's a virus, but it is in the Black community, and as I say, I think it's because no one sounded the alarm. White gay men sounded the alarm, and they mobilized, and they tried to adapt their behavior. It's still, most of the people who are alive with HIV in the U.S. are white gay men. The statistic that's so heavy in the Black community is the new cases. The new cases are moving. So, it's not a virus that chooses its race. It's just an opportunistic virus. And yes, there are a lot of cases in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a predominantly Black city. It's the same in Oakland. And you get the same split where you've got the white population dominates in San Francisco, and across the Bay in Oakland, there's a much higher Black population. So, it's a matter of social factors and personal behavior, not a political agenda who gets the virus.
All righty. Thank you so much, Renata. If you're just joining us, I'm Lisa Godley, filling in for Barbara Ham-Lee. This afternoon, we're discussing the AIDS crisis in the African American community. Joining me, filmmaker Renata Simone, who directed, wrote, and produced a 2-hour Frontline documentary on PBS that uncovers why HIV is so much worse in the Black community. Marvelyn, a young woman who contracted the disease as a teenager from her boyfriend. And Rosalin Johnson, STD Program Supervisor for the Virginia Department of Health, who can tell us where we can be tested and the help that is available right here in Hampton Roads. Where can people go to be tested, Rosalin?
Well, I can tell you, Lisa, the best thing that anyone can do is they can go on our Virginia Department of Health website. If they go and look at our webpage, it says local health departments. You can click on any of those local health departments, and it can tell you where you can go and get testing. AIDS service organizations are available. If someone does not want to come to the local health department, they can go to Access AIDS, which is local, Eastern Virginia AIDS Network, and the Urban League of Hampton Roads. There are a lot of places that provide free HIV testing and the rapid HIV testing. If someone is in our area and they're a tourist and they're just not sure where to go, other places that offer some options is a website called the National HIV Testing Resources. It's online. You go in, you put your zip code in, and wherever you are in the United States, it can tell you where to go test at.
Okay, all righty. We're talking about AIDS in the African American community. If you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Shanae is on line 3 from Chesapeake. Shanae, thank you for calling.
Okay. I just wanted to know if we know how the AIDS virus was introduced to the human population.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Renata?
We do know. A doctor called Beatrice Hahn at University of Alabama has done research over many, many years, and actually we start the documentary I did for Frontline in 2006 with that on the Frontline website. But what she did, she proved that what happened was that in that area, people hunt with knives. Not in that area, not in Alabama. In Zaire, she went to Zaire, and in that area, Zaire, West Africa, Central West Africa, she found that around 1900 to 1920, there was a practice of hunting for meat with knives, and the meat was chimpanzee. It's not a monkey; it's a chimpanzee. They're different creatures. So, and in that process of hunting, because the monkey chimpanzee meat is something with a delicacy there, and in the process of hunting with the knives, there would be nicks and cuts and blood exchanged, or the chimpanzee blood would sometimes get on the hunter, and in that way, the virus got into people. And then, when Zaire got its independence, there were people from all over the world who came to Zaire to work, and they would work for a little while and go back to work. And Haiti and Haitians and French people were two groups that came to Zaire because they speak French in Zaire. And that's how the virus got out of Central Africa, and from there it spread all around the world. It was just a happenstance that white gay men were diagnosed. It was all over the world already. And when the first cases were reported, there were doctors in countries all over the world who said, "Oh, I've been seeing this." So that's what the genetic analysis told Dr. Hahn.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you. Shanae, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. Alrighty. On line 1, Nick from Hampton. Nick, thank you for calling.
Oh, yeah. Hello. Good show. The thought just occurred to me. I'm a lifelong blood donor. I've given probably over 10 gallons, and every time you give blood, you go through this little questionnaire, do you have HIV? Have you ever done this or that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's a pretty thorough thing where but anyway, the point is when you give blood, they test your blood for HIV, STDs, all kinds of stuff, and it's if you have any suspicion that you might have AIDS but you don't know, what you can do is when they take your blood, you just say don't use it. They always give you the option, use my blood or don't use my blood. In other words, if you know you might have had a disease, you say, well, don't use my blood. But this way, then when you come back, they'll run the test. They send you the letter in the mail, and you go, HIV positive. Then, and it's, I just think giving blood is a good thing to do anyway. Black, white, whatever. All blood is red. There's no white or brown or anything like that. So it's just another way to do something good for the community, give blood and be healthy at the same time. So that was it.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you, Nick, for your call. I have an online question. Is the stigma in the African American community related to being HIV positive or being gay?
Oh, definitely. It's stigma both ways.
Okay.
I think both, have heavy stigma to them.
Okay.
We saw that too as we were traveling around the country. It was really both.
Right. I know we were speaking earlier, Renata, about Magic Johnson, and I was telling you that I got a chance to interview him, how healthy he looked when I saw him last year when he was here in the Hampton Roads region, and you were talking about Magic and his medications and how he is not free of the virus.
He's not free of the virus. He takes his medicine faithfully every day, he told me. And he wanted to be sure to emphasize in his interview, and he does, that he's not cured. He's not cured, he says. I take my medicine every day, he says. And he's on the exact same medicines that are available to everybody who's in care for HIV. He doesn't have any special medicine. It's all the same.
Okay. Marvelyn, I have a question for you. How did you get the word that you were positive?
I was in the hospital room, and they waited till everyone was cleared out of the room to come in to tell me I was HIV positive. Okay. I found out through an emergency room doctor.
So you were already feeling ill, or you were there to be treated for something else?
I was there to be treated for something else, which was pneumonia. I had a fever of 106, and I was in and out of conscience in the ICU. And they came in to tell me I was HIV positive.
Wow. What is your thought process on how that kind of news is delivered to someone?
It's no easy way. It's life-changing news. I don't know if I would have rather had someone there or not have anyone there. I mean, I don't know. Because for me, finding out I was HIV positive, one, I didn't know I was being tested for it. Two, I really didn't know what it was. And I've done HIV testing in my past. I worked for an AIDS service organization in Nashville, Tennessee, where I'm from, and I did the testing. And I found it was better, to go into the AIDS service organization or health department where there's people who do that on a day-to-day basis to give you pre-counseling and post-counseling, and they know a lot more. Because in the emergency room, I began to ask questions, and he was like, hold on, I can't tell you. I'm going to go get you some brochures, and we're going to call the infectious disease specialist to come in and tell you. So it was that I had like 10 minutes to, think of all the possible wrong things that could happen or what was going on. Because I'm like, the doctor doesn't even know, and the doctor doesn't want to tell me something wrong, so he has to go verify it. So I had a lot of thoughts going on in my head, but, I think pre- and post-counseling would have been the best.
So they didn't even explain to you what HIV was?
No.
Wow.
I got it later when I spoke to the infectious disease specialist, and I began doing investigating kind of on my own.
Okay. What kind of emotions did you go through when you learned you were HIV positive?
Well, when they first told me, I kind of was shocked. And I was only shocked because the doctor was expecting some reaction from me, and I was trying to give him that reaction, when in reality I'm thinking, okay, what's next? Like, I really don't know what's going on, and, you know, what have you, to the point where when he left out the room, I immediately began picking up the phone, calling, you know, my best friends and, you know, my aunt and my mother, because I wanted someone to kind of tell me what was going on, and I also wanted someone to tell me everything was going to be okay. And immediately I experienced stigma and backlash from telling people I was positive.
What were your family members saying?
Everyone was uneducated, didn't know what to say, didn't know how to treat me. I mean, I was immediately forced out paper plates, plastic silverware. I had to wash my clothes separately. You know, and I don't, you know, back then it definitely hurt. Like, don't get me wrong, I felt, you know, a distance from everyone, and I didn't feel, you know, comfortable being around this person because I felt they didn't feel like being comfortable around me. But when it boiled down to it, they were not educated. They didn't know how to treat me. They never disowned me, even though I felt that way. They just didn't want to catch it, and they just didn't know about it, so they didn't really know how to treat me.
Wow. Rosalin?
Well, I want to commend you, Marvelyn, because that is a very, very difficult thing to hear, whether it was a physician or in the health department. I agree with you that pre and post-test counseling, and for our listening audience, usually pre-test counseling involves someone sitting down with you. Let's say in the health department, we would sit down with you and we would explain to you, you know, right, what exactly the test. What is the test? Is it a complete, you know, is it safe? Is it going to give me an accurate result? We try to answer all of the patient's questions before they even take the test. And, you know, set with them and determine, are you going to be able to you know, sit here and receive the test results? The post-test counseling is more along of asking the patient, you know, do you understand your test result? When someone comes back positive, we try to get from them, what is their support system that they have available? We don't want someone to walk out of the health department and feel the way you did, not knowing what to do. I have to commend you on taking the lead yourself to contact an organization and to find the information out for yourself. But it shouldn't be that way. That's what strikes a lot of fear in young people as to why they don't want to come in the health department to find out. We try to provide a very strong support system, and also we try to make sure that we refer you to a local provider so that way you don't leave out the door not knowing what the next step is. Along with a service provider, a physician, a service organization, places in which you can go, like the AIDS Resource Center here locally, where you can go in and get videos to educate yourself so you don't feel like the ball was just dropped. And then we also make it where, as you said, disease intervention specialists, which are my staff that work for me, we give you our phone number, because we don't want you to walk out the door, especially if you're not ready to tell your family. We want you to have some point of contact in which you can have someone you can go back and talk to. Like you said, it's not that easy. It's not easy to just accept it and just go on with your life.
Okay.
You all are lucky to have Rosalin, I have to tell you. I've been around the country, and there aren't many like you. That's really terrific.
Thank you.
Marvelyn, how are your family and friends treating you today?
I'm sorry, I can't help but to laugh. I mean, they are educated now, so, I mean, I'm happy to report I can eat off regular plates. I can wash my clothes with everybody now. You know, it's definitely changed. So, if anything, I know that from my diagnosis, I was able to educate my family and a community of people, so, you know, they're aware, and I don't experience any stigma, you know, from my family at all.
Okay, we're talking about AIDS and the African American community. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Bridget, calling from Richmond. Bridget? Okay, well, hopefully we'll get her back. Marvelyn, I do have another question for you. What kind of advice would you give another HIV patient?
I would tell another person living with HIV that HIV does not define you. Your life is not over. You can still live a long and healthy life, of course, with work, but I don't think HIV is an adjective. I like to think of, myself as being marvelous. I like Skittles. I like shopping. I love shoes. And that's what I go with. Not that, I'm HIV positive, because that's only a part of me, but it's definitely not who I am.
Okay. Bridget, I think we have Bridget back from Richmond. Bridget?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm on the cell phone, and I was riding down the interstate, and I was listening to the show, and I'm really happy that we are, that you guys are talking about this. I wanted to just make a comment that there was a gentleman on that was on earlier, and I just wanted to say that it is not, that your guest made the comment that it's not political. It's not a political thing. It's a matter of education. It's a matter of medical access. For so long, the African American community has not, especially in the areas of poverty and those in the low economic status, have not had the education or had the medical access to get the treatment that was necessary to understand the disease. It is a disease that runs rampant in the prisons, but again, it's a matter of education and raising awareness in the African American community so that they will have more knowledge and understanding of the disease. And in that way, we need to talk about the things that will make it better so that they can have the treatment and the understanding and to stop try to limit the disease in that way. So I wanted to make the comment that I agree with your guest. It is not a political thing. It's a matter of the communities that have been oppressed and not educated and not have the medical access in terms of, he mentioned majority versus minority, in terms of the majority versus minority community. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you so much, Bridget. Crystal from Virginia Beach, we have about 3 minutes left in the show.
Yes, I was calling. First, I love the topic because there is even nowadays, there's still a lack of communication as far as educating people about what this is. I learned about it through my school. I'm 32 years old. I grew up in Chicago. And I found out while I was in high school that my mom had it. And she had it for years. She never told anyone. Wow. She was not comfortable with telling anyone, even though she had gone through the counseling and everything like that. We didn't find out until at least a good 5 years after she had found out that she had it. She didn't tell us until she had actually had the full-blown AIDS. She received it from her husband at the time, and they were going through a divorce. And he died, and that's the reason why my mom even got tested in the first place, because she found out that that's the reason he died. He died from AIDS. And it's really difficult because me and my sister, we talk about it often, and she tells all her friends that our mom died of cancer because she's embarrassed. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very disturbing because this is something that people need to know about. You're not safe just because you're married or anything like that. This is something that people need to be very open and talk about.
Okay, thank you so much, Crystal, for that call. We really appreciate that. We have about 2 minutes left, a little less than 2, actually, and I want all of our guests to be able to have a closing comment. Marvelyn?
I just really hope people make healthier and wiser decisions in their everyday life, and also begin to educate themselves and help with the prevention of this, because I do feel like, I can do the work and the other people on this call can do the work. But in reality, we need help from them as well.
Okay. All righty. Renata?
I hope everyone tunes in on Tuesday night on PBS because if anything, you'll meet some people who will surprise you. My sister's been following my work for many years, and she, even though I've been doing this for 25 years, she said, Renata, I had no idea so many different kinds of people had HIV, and I think you'll meet some people who are memorable, and you'll like them.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And Rosalin?
We've seen so many callers call in and express it's not political. It is a community issue. It's something that we have to take seriously. We have to encourage people to come out and get tested regardless of the race, regardless of the sexual orientation or whatever. The biggest thing we have to do is remind everyone in the community, not just in Virginia but at large in the world, is that this is a problem, and if we don't take the chance to educate the public, because as we can see today, it is some educational issues. We have to educate, and we have to offer free testing to anyone who wants to test for HIV.
Okay, and we'll be right back after this. Some Norfolk State University mass communication majors are learning the ins and outs of the movie industry this summer. But this is no ordinary mass comm class, because for 3 weeks they get to work alongside actor-filmmaker Tim Reid. It's all part of a hands-on workshop that centers on the art of filmmaking. I recently caught up with these future directors, producers, and writers as they hone their skills with one of the industry's best.
And this is sort of reality training for those who really want to work in this business. We want to get them a touch of reality.
Whether you remember him from his days as Venus Flytrap on the hit comedy WHRV in Cincinnati, his Emmy-nominated role as a restaurateur in Frank's Place, or as the adoring dad on the popular WB series Sister, Sister, Tim Reid is no stranger to television audiences. Reid has been a key player in the entertainment industry for more than 3 decades. So whether you're talking to him about acting, producing, or directing, Tim Reid has something to share.
There's a misconception that our business is such an easy business. If you watch a reality television, what we do doesn't look like it's much. But if you really want to be in the business and have a professional career, then you really need to know your skills and know what the trade calls for.
For 3 weeks this summer, Reid is sharing his wisdom and insight with a group of mass communication students from Norfolk State University.
They thought they were going to get Ray Campbell from Sister, Sister, a nice, easygoing guy, and I think they got a pit bull. So I'm pretty hard on him, and I think because I'm hard on him is because the industry is hard on any new entry. So I don't think that they realize the depth of what it takes to do it. I think they all want it, like most young people. I want, therefore I am. So there is a process that a lot of people like to broad jump. They think YouTube is the way to success. YouTube is just a way to make people who control YouTube very rich. Very few people build careers off of YouTube videos. So what we're trying to get them is give them a base of reality that if you really want to be in this business, this is what it takes to do your job well.
We caught up with Reid and his young proteges during week 2 of the program. Shamira Cole is one of 10 students training with Reid.
Basically, with the program, he comes in, we do workshops the first week. We had a acting workshop, which I really enjoyed, was James Avery. Then we had different camera people come through to teach us different lighting techniques with Johnny Simmons. Also, we went to the studio, Tim Reid studio, New Millennium, and during these workshops, we got a chance to actually do hands-on things and just learn how to use media in a certain way.
The students were given a script, tasked to enhance it, and then told to shoot a silent film, which Shamira got to direct.
We had to basically get the extras. We had to do release forms, so we had to do everything like a big productions. He told us to think big productions like Paramount and Disney. So basically, we had to put the guerrilla shooting style in the back of our minds and just continue to do different things.
Breon Matthews was a boom and camera operator. He says he had no idea how much work went into filmmaking.
It takes a lot. Just like for the first scene, it was like 15 shots. We had to do it at least, 15 times. So just how hard it is, how much hard work it is to, create just, that one scene.
Reid says he understands that there are a lot of young people out there who want to be filmmakers. He says they have to understand that to be successful, it takes a lot of passion, a lot of reading, and a lot of hard work.
I would tell most young people, really consider this something you want to dedicate a lot of years to. They think it's all, limousines and champagne. And however, you can have a wonderful career. I've been doing this for over 40 years, and it's taken me around the world a couple times. So, but the sweat and the tears and the pain that I put in this business, no one sees. Thank God, they shouldn't. I want them to know that there is a lot of hard work involved. And once you see that, and once they are exposed to it, many of them will do what they should do, find something else to do. It's easy to be a doctor than to be a successful filmmaker. And they go, that's not true. Yes, it is. You study 12 years of medical school and a little specialty, you can get a job anywhere in the world being a doctor. You can go to film school for 20 years, get out and never work ever in the industry. It's that tough a business.
Reid says his next project is a film that will be shot at his studio in Richmond with a young man who participated in one of his earlier workshops.
He's shooting his first film. He's actually gone through two film schools. He graduated from Howard, then he went to Florida State University and got his master's, and he's worked around, he's worked in the industry. He finally raised enough money, and he's got a great script, and we're going to produce it along with him and shoot his first film. And for me, it's a delight. That's what this program is supposed to do. It's supposed to be a part of emerging filmmakers, work with them, share our experience, and see them succeed. And if they succeed, I succeed.
The Students Film Project will premiere tonight at 7 p.m. in the new Student Center on the NSU campus. Now time for things to view and do in Hampton Roads.
You will be my Saturday love. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Come celebrate the incoming Norfolk Public Schools Superintendent Samuel T. King with a reception. The event is open to the public and all are welcome. The reception will take place at Norview High School, 6501 Chesapeake Boulevard on July 9th from 4 until 6 p.m. For more information, contact Elizabeth Mather at 757-376-7324 or eMather at Norfolk Public Schools 12, npsk12.com. Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin will be hosting his annual tailgate party on Thursday, July 12th from 6:30 until 9:30 p.m. Many NFL stars will be in attendance, including Michael Vick. There will be an autograph session, raffle prizes, and football drill stations. The tailgate will take place at the Hampton Roads Convention Center at 1610 Coliseum Drive in Hampton, Virginia. For more information or to purchase your tickets, visit 2012 Coach Mike Tomlin Tailgate.eventbrite.com. All Together will present their second All Together in the Evening program on Thursday, July 12th at 7 p.m. at the JCC Rec Center, 5301 Long Hill Road. The topic this week is You've Got to Be Taught to Hate, Combating Racial Stereotypes. Charlene Green, the program director of Dialogue on Race in Charlottesville, will be the discussion leader. Time is running out if you haven't had an opportunity to see the 30 Americans exhibit at the Norfolk Chrysler Museum. 30 Americans showcases some of the greatest contemporary African American art of the past 3 decades. The exhibit features pieces from such artists as Robert Cole Scott and many, many others. The exhibition will only be on display until July 15th, so hurry before it's gone. For more information, contact Cindy Mackey at cmackey@chrysler.org or call 757-754-4553. And that's our show for today. Please join us next week when Barbara will be back along with our always engaging roundtable pundits, the hot topic, the new healthcare plan, and of course, so much more. As always, it will surely be lively and enlightening. For audio engineer Perry Smith, Shimon Tabrin, who answered our phones, I'm Lisa Godley, wishing you a wonderful and safe weekend. We will see you next Friday at noon for another View.